In the journey of life, every person seeks something that will give stability, peace, and security. Human beings naturally desire something firm on which they can build their lives. Many people believe that this security can be found in money, success, possessions, or the admiration of others. These things appear attractive and powerful because they promise comfort and control. When a person has resources, influence, or recognition, it can seem as though life is firmly in his hands. Yet, the reality of human experience shows us that these things, while useful, are never permanent. Wealth can disappear in a moment. Health can weaken without warning. And the opinions of people can change quickly. This is why faith constantly reminds us of a deeper truth. Only God is truly secure and unchanging. When a person places his trust entirely in the things of this world, his heart becomes vulnerable to fear and disappointment. The more he depends on temporary realities, the more anxious he becomes about losing them. The fear of failure, the fear of losing status, or the fear of not having enough begins to dominate the mind. Little by little, the heart becomes restless. Instead of living with freedom and peace, the person lives in constant tension, trying to protect what cannot ultimately be protected. Trusting in God is different. It does not mean ignoring responsibilities or rejecting the good things of life. Rather, it means recognizing that everything we have is a gift, and that our ultimate security does not come from our own strength. When a person trusts in God, he understands that his life is held in the hands of someone who is faithful and loving. Even when difficulties arise, that trust gives him stability. Problems still exist. Challenges still appear. But they do not destroy his hope, because he knows that his life is guided by a greater purpose. One of the greatest spiritual dangers in human life is the illusion of self-sufficiency. When things go well, people can easily believe that they do not need God. Success creates the impression that everything depends on personal effort and intelligence. In those moments, prayer becomes less frequent, gratitude becomes weaker, and the sense of dependence on God slowly fades. The heart begins to rely more on personal achievements than on divine grace. Yet it is precisely in these moments that the soul becomes spiritually poor, even if materially it appears rich. True faith invites us to see life differently. It teaches us that the most important riches are not those that can be stored in banks or displayed before others. The greatest treasure is a heart that knows how to trust. A person who trusts in God can face uncertainty without losing peace. He understands that life includes suffering, limitations, and unexpected changes, but he also knows that none of these things escape the providence of God. This trust allows him to move forward without despair, even when circumstances seem difficult. This perspective transforms the way we look at our daily lives. Instead of measuring everything by success or failure, we begin to measure life by fidelity and love. Instead of asking only how much we have gained, we begin to ask how much we have grown in faith. Trust in God helps a person live with humility, because he knows that everything good ultimately comes from God. It also helps him live with gratitude, because he recognizes the countless blessings that fill his life each day. Trust also frees the heart from excessive attachment to material things. When a person knows that God is his true security, he becomes less anxious about possessions and more attentive to what truly matters. He becomes more generous, more compassionate, and more open to others. Instead of clinging to everything he has, he learns to share, because he knows that his life does not depend on what he owns, but on the love of God. In this way, trusting in God is not simply an abstract idea. It's a way of living. It shapes the decisions we make, the priorities we establish, and the attitude with which we face each day. A heart that trusts in God walks through life with deeper peace, knowing that even in uncertainty, there is a faithful presence guiding every step. One of the greatest challenges in the spiritual life is learning to keep our hearts open to others. It is easy for a person to become focused on his own concerns, his own problems, and his own ambition. Daily responsibilities, work, and personal goals can slowly create a kind of spiritual blindness. Without realizing it, a person can begin to pass by the needs of others without noticing them. The suffering of people around us becomes something distant, something that does not seem to involve us directly. Yet faith constantly reminds us that love for God cannot be separated from love for our neighbor. A heart that truly listens to God cannot remain indifferent to the pain of others. When faith is alive, it awakens sensitivity. It allows us to see what we might otherwise ignore. There are many forms of poverty in the world. Some people lack food, shelter, or basic necessities, but others suffer. Sometimes those who suffer most are not the ones who ask for help loudly, but those who remain silent while carrying heavy burdens in their hearts. Opening our hearts to others begins with something simple: attention. It requires slowing down enough to notice the people around us. Many times we are physically present with others, yet our minds are elsewhere, absorbed in our own thoughts or worries. When this happens, relationships become superficial and distant. But when we truly pay attention to others, when we listen with patience and sincerity, we begin to discover their struggles and needs. Charity is not only about giving material help. While material assistance is important, love goes much deeper. Charity is expressed in patience, understanding, forgiveness, and kindness. A gentle word can bring comfort to someone who is suffering. A moment of listening can give hope to someone who feels forgotten. A simple act of generosity can restore dignity to someone who feels invisible. These small gestures may appear insignificant in the eyes of the world, but before God, they have immense value. However, opening the heart to others also requires a change within ourselves. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to charity is pride or selfishness. When a person becomes too focused on his own comfort, he begins to avoid situations that require sacrifice. Helping others often demands time, patience, and effort. It may interrupt our plans or challenge our preferences. Yet love always involves sacrifice. Without sacrifice, love remains only an idea rather than a living reality. This is why the call to conversion is so important. Conversion is not only about avoiding wrongdoing, it is about transforming the way we see life. It means moving from a self-centered perspective to a perspective shaped by compassion and generosity. It means learning to place the needs of others alongside our own. This transformation does not happen instantly. It is a gradual process that grows through prayer, reflection, and daily choices. The grace we receive in the Eucharist plays a central role in this transformation. When we participate in the Eucharist, we encounter the perfect example of self-giving love. Christ offers himself completely, holding nothing back. His life becomes a gift for others. When we receive him, we are invited to allow that same spirit of generosity to take root in our own hearts. The Eucharist strengthens us so that we can love not only when it is easy, but also when it is difficult, responding to God's call. To conversion means allowing this love to reshape our priorities. Instead of asking only what benefits us, we begin to ask how we can serve others. Instead of protecting our comfort at all costs, we become willing to give something of ourselves. In this way, charity becomes not an occasional action, but a way of life. A heart that opens itself to others becomes a reflection of God's mercy in the world. Through simple acts of compassion, the presence of God becomes visible in everyday life. And in loving others sincerely, we discover something beautiful. The more we give love, the more our own hearts are filled with peace and meaning.